Now to London, thousands of people lined the streets to witness the funeral procession of former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. While leaders and dignitaries from 170 countries attended the Wednesday funeral at St. Paul's Cathedral. Mrs. Thatcher's Union flag-draped coffin was transported to the cathedral by a horse-drawn gun carriage along a route lined by members of the British Armed Forces. Mrs. Thatcher died from a stroke 9 days ago at the age of 87. She was Britain's first and only female Prime Minister. In the wake of the Boston bombings, London remains on alert, and that was evident at Wednesday's funeral. Joining us from London is VOA's Al Pessin. Welcome, Al.
Hi, Vincent.
Yes, hi. And now, describe to us, please, the security situation as you observed it at the time of the funeral.
There was a very large police presence, and there were also, of course, a lot of soldiers participating in the ceremony itself. So what we were told was that they reviewed the plan, they made some enhancements to the plan, but clearly they were going to have a significant security presence anyway, as you would for such an event, especially after the protests celebrating Mrs. Thatcher's death during the past week.
And we know that London is going to be also having its London Marathon come this weekend. Now, are you seeing kind of a slightly different preparations being made as opposed to how things might have been last week?
Again, it's the same story. They have reviewed their security plan. There will no doubt be more security officers on the street, but in both of these events, they need to strike a balance. One, a funeral, the other, a sporting event. Public events, not security events. So they want them to be what they are with security. They don't want them to turn into security events. And that's the balance that they tried to strike during the Olympics last year, a widely successful effort as most people saw it. And that's what they did today, and that's what they'll try to do again on Sunday.
Briefly, Al, have you had anybody on the streets kind of making a reference to the Boston attacks and perhaps because of that being a little extra cautious citizens?
I did hear a few people mentioning the Boston attacks, but I'm not aware that anybody changed their plans as a result of it. Of course, people may have.
Yes.
But as far as we know, there's no international dimension to the Boston attacks, so it's not something that people here are particularly concerned about, although, of course, the security forces, well, it's their job to worry about such things.
Okay. Very briefly, something worth noting about the U.S. delegation at the funeral. Share with us.
Yes, that's right. There were no elected U.S. officials in the official delegation. It was headed by two former secretaries of state and included the former ambassador to the U.K. and the current charge d'affaires. Separately, some other former secretaries of state, including Henry Kissinger, were invited and came along, former Vice President Dick Cheney. But no senior official from the Obama administration or the Congress was here, and this has certainly gotten some notice in the British press. The British government is downplaying it. But it was something that people noticed.
Well, thank you very much, Al. That's Al Pessin, our reporter in London.